You do not need to be strong in this moment. You do not need to hold yourself together or search for the right words. There is nothing you need to explain. God already understands your heart, even when you are not sure how to describe what you are feeling. If you feel tired tonight, that tiredness is understood. If your thoughts feel heavy, they are not a burden to God. If your spirit feels quiet, that quiet is welcome here. God is already present with you. There are days when you carry more than others can see, responsibilities that demand your attention, expectations that require your energy, moments when you continue forward even though something inside you feels worn down. God sees every one of those moments. Nothing you have endured has gone unnoticed. You were never meant to carry life alone. You were not designed to hold every concern, every responsibility, every fear by yourself. That is why God invites you into rest, not as an escape, but as a return to truth. Rest is not quitting. Rest is trusting. Trusting that God is working even when you cannot see progress. Trusting that God is present even when answers feel delayed. Trusting that you are not alone in your life. If your mind feels busy, allow it to slow gently. You do not need to plan or prepare right now. You do not need to replay conversations or anticipate tomorrow. This moment does not require solutions. God is not in a hurry. There may be worries that return again and again, thoughts that feel unresolved, questions that linger when everything grows quiet. God understands how the mind holds on to uncertainty, and He is patient with you. You do not need to fight your thoughts. Simply allow them to pass. Let them come and go without following them. Gently return your attention to the calm of this moment. God's peace does not demand focus. It arrives quietly, often without effort. Scripture reminds us that God is a refuge. A refuge is not a place of pressure. It is not a place where answers are demanded. It is a place of safety. If your heart feels unsettled, let God be your refuge now. You may have been strong for others. You may have carried emotional weight without speaking it aloud. You may have felt responsible even when you were exhausted. God sees that weight clearly, and He does not expect you to carry it alone. God's peace does not erase difficulty, but it changes how you carry it. It steadies your thoughts. It softens your heart. It reminds you that you are supported. Even now, God is surrounding you with His presence. If your breathing feels shallow, allow it to deepen slowly. There is no urgency here. God is not rushing you forward. You are safe to pause. Rest does not put you behind. Rest aligns you with how God designed you. There may be parts of your life that feel uncertain right now. Situations you cannot control. Outcomes you cannot predict. God is not threatened by uncertainty. He is already present in what feels unknown to you. The future does not need your vigilance tonight. God is watching over it. If fear begins to surface, acknowledge it gently and let it pass. Fear loses strength when it is not fed. God's presence is steady. It does not fluctuate with emotion. It does not withdraw when confidence fades. It remains constant. You are not required to hold yourself together perfectly. God is gentle with the parts of you that feel worn. He does not demand strength when you are tired. Scripture tells us that God renews strength quietly, often beneath the surface, often without announcement. Renewal does not always feel dramatic. Sometimes it feels like calm returning. Even now, God is restoring what has been drained. He is steadying what feels unsettled. He is bringing peace where there has been strain. You are safe to release effort, safe to let go of tension, safe to rest. God is present with you. You are allowed to slow down here. Nothing is asking for your attention right now. Nothing needs to be solved. Nothing needs to be explained. God is not measuring your productivity in this moment. He is offering you peace. There are thoughts that may have followed you throughout the day, concerns that felt unfinished, situations you wished had gone differently. God understands how the mind holds on to these things. You do not need to revisit them tonight. As you remain here, allow yourself to step away from the weight of responsibility. Let go of the need to stay alert. Let go of the habit of carrying everything alone. God is capable of holding what you release. If your body feels tense, allow it to soften gradually. There is no rush. Peace settles gently. Scripture reminds us that God gives rest to the weary, rest that does not demand effort, rest that does not require explanation. If your heart feels tired, let it be tired. If your thoughts feel quiet, let them remain quiet. God is present in both strength and weakness. You may have spent much of your time caring for others, making decisions or meeting expectations. Those efforts matter, and God sees them. But now is the time to receive instead of give. You are not selfish for resting. You are not neglecting anything important. You are allowing renewal. God's peace does not fade when you stop trying. It becomes more noticeable. If your breathing feels shallow, allow it to deepen naturally. There is nothing you need to control. God is steady. Even when you feel uncertain, God remains sure. Even when you feel tired, God remains strong. There is no need to think ahead. Tomorrow can wait. God is already there. For now, remain here. Allow peace to continue settling. Allow tension to ease. Allow rest to come. God is near. You do not need to rush through this moment. There is nothing waiting for you on the other side of this time that requires your immediate attention. You are allowed to be here without urgency, without pressure, and without expectation. God is already present, and He is not asking you to hurry. If your heart feels tired, let it rest. If your thoughts feel full, allow them to slow. If you feel quiet inside, that quiet is welcome. God does not require constant strength from you. He understands weariness, and He responds to it with care. There are responsibilities you have carried that others may never fully see, decisions you have made quietly, worries you have held privately. God has seen every step you have taken, even the ones that felt heavy. Nothing you have endured has been unnoticed. You were never meant to hold everything together on your own. You were not designed to carry every burden without support. That is why God invites you into rest, not as an escape from life, but as a return to truth. Rest is not failure. Rest is trust. Trust that God is working even when progress feels slow. Trust that God is present, even when answers feel delayed. Trust that you are not alone, even when life feels quiet. If your mind keeps returning to unfinished thoughts, you do not need to chase them. Let them pass without engagement. Let them come and go like distant sounds. You do not need to resolve anything right now. This moment is not asking for solutions. God is not in a hurry with you. There may be concerns that resurface when everything becomes still. Questions about the future, uncertainty about outcomes. God understands how the mind seeks reassurance. He is patient with your need for peace. You do not need to fight uncertainty. You only need to rest in the presence of God, who already knows what lies ahead. Scripture reminds us that God is a refuge. A refuge is a place of safety, not pressure. A refuge does not demand clarity, it offers shelter. If your heart feels unsettled, let God be your refuge now. You may have spent much of your time caring for others, meeting expectations, or holding things together when you felt depleted. God sees that effort. He honors it. But now you are allowed to receive instead of give. You are not neglecting anything by resting. You are not falling behind. You are allowing renewal. God's peace does not disappear when you stop striving. It becomes more noticeable. It settles quietly, gently, and without force. If your breathing feels shallow, allow it to deepen naturally. There is no rhythm you need to follow. God is steady even when your breathing changes. You are safe here. There are parts of your life that may feel uncertain right now, situations beyond your control, outcomes you cannot predict. God is not threatened by uncertainty. He is already present in what feels unknown to you. The future does not need your vigilance tonight. God is watching over it. If fear tries to surface, acknowledge it gently and release it. Fear loses strength when it is not fed. God's presence is stronger than what you fear. You are not required to hold yourself together perfectly. God is gentle with the parts of you that feel worn. He does not demand strength when you are tired. Scripture tells us that God renews strength quietly, often without announcement, often beneath the surface. Renewal does not always feel dramatic. Sometimes it feels like calm returning. Even now, God is restoring what has been drained. He is steadying what feels unsettled. He is bringing peace where there has been strain. If sleep begins to come, allow it. If wakefulness remains, allow that too. There is no right way to be here. This time is not measured by productivity. It is measured by presence. God is present with you. You are safe to release effort, safe to let go of tension, safe to rest. Nothing you are facing is beyond God's care. Nothing you are carrying is beyond His strength. Remain here. Breathe slowly. Allow peace to continue settling. God is near. There are moments when the weight you feel does not come from one single thing, but from many small things carried over time, decisions made quietly, responsibilities accepted without hesitation, expectations you tried to meet even when you felt stretched thin. God knows how that kind of weight builds. You may not have noticed when the heaviness started, only that it has been there for a while. God noticed. He's been present through every moment, even the ones that felt ordinary or unremarkable to you. Nothing you have carried has been meaningless. Faith does not always feel strong. Sometimes faith feels like simply continuing when you would rather stop. Sometimes it feels like holding on quietly without certainty. God honors that kind of faith. He does not dismiss it. You are not failing because you feel tired. You are not weak because you feel worn. You are human, and God understands that fully. There are seasons when life feels demanding without explanation. Seasons when clarity feels distant. Seasons when answers come slowly. God is not absent in those seasons. He is steady. You do not need to force peace. You do not need to manufacture calm. Peace grows naturally when pressure is released. As you remain here, allow yourself to stop scanning for problems. Stop preparing for what might go wrong. Stop rehearsing what you would say if things unfolded differently. This moment does not require defense or planning. God is already watching over what concerns you. You may have been asking yourself whether you are doing enough, whether you are making the right choices, or whether you are falling behind. God does not measure your life the way you do. He sees the full picture, not just the current moment. He sees effort where you see imperfection. He sees faith where you see uncertainty. He sees growth where you see delay. You are not required to understand everything in order to be at peace. There are things unfolding in your life that you cannot yet see, paths forming quietly, doors opening gradually. God is present in all of it. He does not rush the process, and He does not forget you within it. If your thoughts return to the future, gently allow them to rest. The future will still be there tomorrow. Tonight is not for solving what comes next. Tonight is for being held. God's care does not depend on your awareness of it. He is faithful even when you are distracted, tired, or unsure. If your body feels heavy, let it be heavy. If your mind feels slower than usual, let it slow. There is nothing wrong with that. God is not asking you to be alert right now. Rest is part of how God restores. Scripture reminds us that God gives strength to the weary and peace to the restless. That peace does not arrive all at once. It settles gradually, often unnoticed at first. Even now, something within you is easing. Even now, tension is loosening. Even now, God is working quietly. You may not feel dramatic change, and that is okay. Renewal often begins gently. You are allowed to stop carrying the emotional weight of the day. You are allowed to set aside what felt unresolved. You are allowed to leave things unfinished. God is capable of holding what you release. If worry attempts to return, acknowledge it without judgment and allow it to pass. Worry does not need to be solved tonight. God has already accounted for what concerns you. You are not alone in your thoughts. You are not alone in your fears. You are not alone in your waiting. God remains present, steady, and attentive. As time continues, allow your breathing to remain natural. There is no rhythm you need to follow. There is no effort required. Peace does not need instruction. God is not asking for performance. He is offering presence. Nothing about your life is beyond His care. Nothing you are facing is outside His attention. Nothing you feel is too small or too familiar to matter. Remain here as long as you need. Allow quiet to continue. Let go of effort. God is faithful even now. There are seasons when life feels quiet on the outside but heavy on the inside, not because something dramatic is happening, but because you have been carrying responsibility for a long time without rest. God understands that kind of weight. Sometimes the hardest moments are not marked by crisis but by endurance. The long stretches where you keep going, showing up, and doing what needs to be done, even when you feel drained. God sees those seasons clearly. You are not forgotten in the routine of life. You are not overlooked in the ordinary moments. You are not unnoticed in quiet faithfulness. God is present even when nothing seems to change. You may wonder if your efforts matter, if your prayers are heard, or if your patience is worth it. God assures you that nothing given in faith is wasted. Every act of trust, even the small ones, carries meaning. Faith is not always loud. Faith is not always confident. Sometimes faith is simply staying. God honors that. If you have felt pressure to move faster, to do more, or to figure things out sooner, allow that pressure to ease. God is not rushing you. He works with patience and care. You are allowed to move at a human pace. There are parts of your life that are still unfolding, pieces that are not finished, questions that do not yet have answers. God is not unsettled by what is unfinished. He is steady in the process. You do not need to force clarity. You do not need to push understanding. You do not need to resolve everything tonight. God is already working in ways you cannot see. If your thoughts begin to wander, gently allow them to slow. Bring your attention back to the calm of this moment. Nothing else requires your focus right now. You may have carried disappointment quietly, hopes that did not unfold as expected, plans that shifted without warning. God understands that grief, even when it feels small or difficult to explain, He does not dismiss it. He does not rush it. He walks with you through it. Healing does not always come as sudden relief. Often it comes as steady reassurance, as peace returning little by little, as strength rebuilding quietly. Even now, God is restoring what has been worn down. You do not need to monitor the process. You do not need to check for progress. You do not need to evaluate how well you are doing. God is faithful whether you feel it or not. If your body feels ready to rest, allow it to soften further. If your breathing feels slower, let it remain slow. There is no urgency here. This time is safe. God's presence does not fade when you grow quiet. He remains close. He remains attentive. He remains constant. You are not alone in your waiting. You are not alone in your questions. You are not alone in your hope. God remains with you. Let this time continue without effort. Allow peace to deepen naturally. Remain here. God is steady. God is faithful. God is faithful. God is near. There are moments when the soul grows tired, not from sudden hardship, but from long responsibility, from showing up again and again, from carrying what must be carried without recognition or relief. God understands that kind of fatigue deeply. You were never meant to live in constant strain. You were not designed to be endlessly strong. Strength is something God supplies, not something you must manufacture. If you have been running on determination alone, allow yourself to pause. Determination has limits. God does not. You may have felt pressure to remain composed even when emotions felt close to the surface. Pressure to stay steady even when answers felt far away. God does not ask you to hide what you feel. He meets you where you are. Nothing about your inner life surprises Him. There are questions that do not have immediate answers, situations that feel unresolved, paths that feel unclear. God is not unsettled by uncertainty. He is already present in what you cannot see. Trust does not require understanding everything. Trust means allowing God to walk with you through what is still forming. You do not need to rush peace. You do not need to force acceptance. You do not need to convince yourself that everything is fine. God's peace arrives gently when you stop pushing. If you have been replaying moments from the past, wondering what you could have done differently, allow those thoughts to soften. The past does not need to be revisited tonight. God has already carried you through it. Grace covers what you cannot change. There may be parts of your heart that feel guarded, places where disappointment lingered, hopes that felt delayed. God does not pressure those places open. He waits patiently. Healing unfolds in its own time. You may not feel dramatic relief, and that is okay. Peace often begins quietly. It settles slowly. It grows steadily. Even now, something within you is easing. Your body may feel heavier as rest approaches. Let that heaviness remain. It is a sign that effort is releasing. Your mind may feel slower. That is not weakness. It is rest. God does not rush restoration. Scripture reminds us that God renews strength in ways we do not always notice, often beneath the surface, often without announcement. You do not need to track progress. You do not need to measure change. You do not need to monitor yourself. God is already at work. If thoughts about tomorrow begin to appear, gently let them pass. Tomorrow will arrive when it arrives. God is already there. Tonight is for release. Release expectations. Release unfinished thoughts. Release the need to stay prepared. God is holding what you let go. There is nothing fragile about this moment, nothing unsafe, nothing uncertain in God's care. You are allowed to be still, allowed to rest, allowed to receive peace. God is steady, God is present, God remains faithful. Let this time continue without effort. Remain here. Allow quiet to deepen. There is a quiet strength that comes from allowing yourself to stop striving, not because everything is finished, but because you trust that God is present even when things remain incomplete. That trust does not have to be loud. It does not need words. It can exist simply as stillness. You may have spent much of your life anticipating what others need, adjusting to circumstances, or preparing for what might happen next. Over time, that constant readiness can become exhausting. God understands that fatigue. He does not ask you to stay alert in moments meant for rest. This is a time to let your guard down. You are not required to analyze how you are feeling. You are not required to label your emotions or explain them. God already knows what is happening within you, even when it feels difficult to describe. There are layers to the human heart. Some surface easily. Others take time to reveal themselves. God is patient with every layer. He does not force healing or demand immediate clarity. You are allowed to take your time. If you have been holding on to tension without realizing it, allow it to release gradually, not all at once, not forcefully, just enough to notice a little more ease, a little more space, a little more quiet. God's peace does not overwhelm, it settles. There are moments when silence feels uncomfortable because it leaves room for thoughts to surface. But silence is also where God speaks gently, without pressure or urgency. You do not need to listen for anything specific. Simply remaining here is enough. Faith does not always look like confidence. Sometimes it looks like resting when you would normally keep pushing. Sometimes it looks like trusting God to work while you pause. That kind of faith is seen. You may have wondered whether slowing down means falling behind. God does not measure your life by speed. He measures it by love, by faithfulness, by the quiet choices that are never seen by others. You are not late. You are not delayed. You are exactly where you are meant to be in this moment. If memories come and go, allow them to pass without judgment. If plans for the future arise, let them drift by without engagement. There will be time for those things later. Right now is for rest. God is not asking you to solve your life tonight. You do not need to replay old conversations. You do not need to prepare new ones. You do not need to anticipate outcomes. God is already ahead of you. Even when you feel uncertain, God remains sure. Even when you feel tired, God remains strong. Even when you feel quiet, God remains attentive. Nothing about your current state pushes God away. He draws near to those who are weary. He stays close to those who feel fragile. You are safe in this stillness. Allow your breathing to remain natural. There is no pattern to follow, no technique to master. Peace does not require effort. As time continues, you may notice your body becoming heavier, your thoughts slowing, your awareness softening. These are signs of rest taking hold. You do not need to resist them. God watches over you as you rest. You are not responsible for holding everything together tonight. You are not responsible for staying strong. You are not responsible for having answers. God is responsible for what you release. Let this quiet continue. Let this stillness remain. Let yourself be here without expectation. God is present. There is nothing fragile about pausing. Stillness is not a gap in faith. It is often where faith is strengthened. When you allow yourself to stop striving, you make room for God to work without resistance. You may have learned to keep moving even when you were tired, to stay productive even when your heart asked for rest. God understands that pattern. He is not asking you to unlearn it all at once. He is simply offering you a moment where you do not have to carry it. This is not wasted time. God is present in moments that appear quiet and unremarkable. He does not require constant motion to be near you. He does not need your effort to remain attentive. If you feel a sense of release beginning to form, allow it to continue. Let your shoulders soften. Let your jaw relax. Let your thoughts slow without forcing them to stop. Peace does not arrive by command. It arrives when pressure leaves. You do not need to evaluate whether you are resting correctly. There is no correct way to be here. There is only permission to remain. God's presence is not something you earn. It is something you are given. It remains whether you are alert or tired, focused or drifting, awake or preparing for sleep. You are allowed to be human here. If emotions rise unexpectedly, let them pass without judgment. They do not need to be examined or explained. God already understands their source. You may notice moments of quiet clarity, or you may simply notice calm. Either is enough. Both are signs of God's gentle care. Nothing needs to change right now. Nothing needs to improve. Nothing needs to be fixed. This moment is complete as it is. God continues to hold what you cannot. He continues to guide what you release. He continues to remain present even when you grow still. Allow this calm to continue unfolding at its own pace. Remain here. As this time comes to a gentle close, there is nothing more you need to do. You have given enough for today. You have carried enough, and now you are free to rest without effort or concern. God is not asking you to prepare for what comes next. He is simply present with you now. The same God who has watched over every step of your life will continue to watch over you as you rest. Nothing you release in this moment will be lost. Nothing you set down will fall beyond His care. You do not need to stay alert. You do not need to hold your thoughts together. You do not need to remain strong. God is strong for you. If sleep comes, allow it. If quiet wakefulness remains, allow that too. There is no pressure here. There is only peace. You are safe. You are held. You are not alone. Rest now, knowing that God remains near.